it's Rich again. So this one's a bit of a fly through the car before I start it, and I'm slightly apprehensive because I've only been pushing it backwards and forwards for a couple of weeks since really taking it offline and putting the really starting to get stuck into some of the bodywork and some of the minor niggles that I need to fix before it goes anywhere near a spray shop. As you can see, I've primarily stripped the majority of the car of paint, although not all of it. I've still got the front windscreen in. That just stayed to try and keep the car waterproof as long as possible. It's one of the last jobs I'm going to do, and I'll take that out next actually. The rear windscreen came out in quite early on, so I could get at the back parcel shelf and get some of the interior trim out. Some of it's so intrinsically mixed together in terms of what you can get at and what you can't, depending on what's in and out of the car. A degree in rocket science, technical engineering is kind of needed even for the back armrest. It took me about 2 days to work out where the nuts and bolts were actually fitted. There's also a lot of extra cover panels and things which help to make the trim of the car, but really you need to be able to access from the inside of the car to get at the underside of them and release them, which again is one of the reasons why I have the back windscreen out. Sadly, I broke the bloody thing when it came out. I thought I'd got everything released. I thought the rubbers were free and easy. I was just lifting a corner and I got this big bloody crack and it ran straight across it. It's a very expensive mistake to make, and I don't want to make it with the front. Thing on old cars there, especially if you don't know what you're doing, is rubber's cheap, windscreens are expensive. Get rid of the rubber. Make sure it's all lifted, make sure it's not stuck down and snagged in. There's a lot of clips and retainers on these windscreens. They're a monstrous pain in the arse. You can't be rough with them. You need to be firm, but as soon as you start trying to play tough, it comes back and bites you, as it did me. And I had the big, well, I've got an expense to go. So the back end of the car is completely stripped. The whole underside of the boot was rebuilt. That's all nice steel work there. It's quite heavy welding, actually, heavy duty. This car had a prang at some point in the past. Hardly surprising on a car its age. I believe one of the previous guys had it raced cars. I don't know whether he raced this one. I'd love to hear from anybody who knows the history of the car. It had a couple of different number plates as well, but it's mostly been in the south of England before going off to France. So that's it. The whole car was pretty much mechanically sanded back. A couple of reasons for that actually were that one is that it's what I chose to do at the time. I've used chemicals on it as well, and I have chemicals to do some of the more intricate areas of the car. I don't like just throwing chemicals on things. It's not particularly nice. You have to suit up. Making a load of dust is not much better, and you might have noticed my garage is a pretty dusty place. I've got a Henry especially for the garage so that I don't incur wrath of wife when using the household vacuum. Great investment, actually really handy. Sucks up all those important nuts and bolts as well, I think, which is a bit of a pain in the arse. Try and avoid that, and I've got an idea for that, which I'm going to build. The driver's side door here is one of the biggest areas of intrigue, though. At some point, this has been completely stuffed, and some of it's been pulled out. I can tell inside the door itself, there's been a bit of work, and there's a huge amount of filler on this. The interesting thing about the cars is the amount of filler. Between the first spray job and the second spray job, there's not an insignificant amount, and obviously that crash, whatever happened, there's a couple of other parts on the car which are bumped as well. The sprayers had done a pretty decent job of filling in the gaps and leaving a very fair, well-aligned car. But handmade for an Aston is exactly that, and love to hear anybody else's experience. But the experience on this car is that handmade is not really that accurate, and I can tell because there's a shitload of filler under the original paint in some places, and I believe from discussing with other people that this is not abnormal, and I've got no problem with it. It is what it is. It's what makes the car handmade, right? If it comes straight out of a fresh metal press and goes together perfectly, brilliant. But there's time and effort gone into this. There's some of the remaining filler here. I've got it off to a point. It's probably up to 5mm here to get the alignment with the doors and things, and you can see that it is the final fill and flush is perfect. and certainly was perfect before it was released out into the shop. And this was somebody's pride and joy. We as Aston drivers had or the general thought of a handmade supercar is that it's absolutely top notch right from the outset. This is anything but top notch right from the outset. I don't have a problem with it. It's what gives it character. It's what makes it interesting, and I still think it's cool. But the amount of dust I've created just getting this filler off the car is absolutely phenomenal. So get a Henry, really helpful. Or I'm sure other vacuum cleaners are available, but if they want to pay me money to help finish the car, I'm more than up for it. But to be honest, now I've started using chemicals, the car does look like some kind of crazy artist's drawing board, where I'm soaking it and taking it off in chunks. Some of this paint, especially the top layer, which had been lacquered, is very, very hard, and it takes several attempts with the chemicals to get through it, and then to get down to the base layers. And if there's filler in the way as well, it's a whole lot of extra scraping. So, I mean, people say mechanical can be dangerous for the car. I'm sure that's true, and I've certainly got some scratches in the bodywork where I've done it. But by the time I'm 300 and 800 grit through the final prep before it goes off to a sprayer who will give it his love and attention as well, I think it's actually very hard to do any real meaningful damage unless you put in undue pressure and weight on the car.